Everybody wants to see Danielle's riot profile.
That's a good default.
How
You
many?
like it?
She's got so
Hold
many
on, no.
pictures.
I don't have that many.
Oh yeah, we cut them down.
It's pretty. What do you mean?
I'm gonna say no. I'm gonna say no.
Pretty good.
Wait, why did I come up on yours?
I don't know. Just sent me a message.
You guys are obviously a match.
Because I think we're
We're not a match, I'll tell you that.
we're next to each other.
You think we're a match?
Yeah, she's definitely not.
You're
on my
sure.
level.
Your algorithm does not lie.
Wait, no.
There they are.
The algorithm.
algorithm does not
The
lie.
algorithm lies.
That's
The
wrong.
algorithm.
So,
No, like,
Wake
up.
just wanting to check and
Oh,
make sure that,
Can you grab the other
that these mics work. Okay, Wickham?
drawer over there?
Yeah.
Hey, there he is.
Anybody stay here?
What's us, brother?
I didn't know more people.
Mikey's just new to the computer.
Mikey's not
Well,
here.
listen,
Okay.
Just be careful of the cords.
Oh, you must have it going. I see people on the chat.
Yeah, we're good.
I watched half of the movie.
Did you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna finish it.
I
It's
know
good.
you will.
It's
Right?
good, yeah. It's just like, oh man. See, this is what I was worried about because I knew that this was gonna happen.
I haven't done
Yeah.
that yet.
Well, I had the same thing.
there's a dress.
I had the
dresser
same thing.
right
When they
by the
told me
door.
that I had to do this, I was like, fuck.
So now everyone who has like a medical issue it's probably that.
It's definitely strong.
Like a part like most likely.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
so now Wickham, now that link is not good, huh?
But you're lucky because you're young. You didn't have to wait till you're like an old man like me. You could take care of that shit and
He's
avoid.
inside.
But I know.
I'm scared. I'm gonna have to get
It's
your
just like blowing
It sucks,
into
but it's not so bad. I mean, you're done, well, practically.
that's amazing. I'm
I mean,
so
it's
happy
been
for you
6
that you
months
did it.
You know, really warrior
Jesus
treatments.
Christ.
But, you know,
What treatment?
Do you know when how many more do you have?
I'm gonna show you.
Are you
what
done? You're done.
no, I got to go back
So now that link doesn't
for
work.
another week.
Yeah.
They're going to put in the post for all the implants next week, and then I got
It's
to
on my
out there
story.
for a week while they monitor
Swipe
and make
up.
sure there's no infection and stuff.
What part of
All
Mexico?
right, so now you
It's
need
right
to
here,
like.
Tijuana,
Tijuana.
2 hours from here, 2 hour drive. I
All right, I
his,
might yeah.
I give you his contact.
Okay,
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
Well, I don't
gave it to
even-
me.
We never even posted
Yeah.
that.
Well,
Yeah.
just easy
Yeah,
does it,
throw
but
that
do it.
out there.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I've been
Well, I'm not logging
I think
in.
that's what happened to my
Oh,
mom.
fuck.
fucked up. And then, of course, you know, they don't tell you.
Right. If
All
I'm
right,
taking
so
I
home
don't
and
know
then
not to be said.
that's insane.
That paper can't be found anywhere.
I-
where I
Sorry.
I know.
If you want to join us.
They took it down.
I know. That's so
Crazy, right?
that's messed up.
What they take down
They took down this movie, Root Cause,
about murder in the building.
about root cause and how they fuck up your whole health. It's just unknown information because, you know, they make billions of dollars a year on root canals. So they lobbied against Netflix. They took it down. Then they censored it off of YouTube. They took it down off of everywhere.
I have 18.
18, like 6.
Ugh.
How
Not
many
enough.
teeth do you have? Period.
28 or 30,
Oh, okay.
depends on if you got your molars yanked out. That's another issue.
I got those like re-yanked.
But that's an issue because when they don't do it right,
Yeah.
holistically,
Yeah.
that creates what they call a cavitation. And that leaks all this bacteria into your fucking nervous system and your organs. It's fucked up, man. You're killing people.
I think that's what happened. I think that's why my friend is fucked up right now. I'm
Yeah,
gonna actually
nerve
send her,
damage,
I'm sending her the thing.
all kinds of shit.
Is there anything there?
You are.
You, bro.
How's
doing
this?
Yeah, we don't have Mikey though, so
Where's Billy?
Billy's not. He's lagging. He's got work.
You want to lead, dude? You know what's up.
Yeah, you're the de facto leader at this point.
Yeah.
Good for
You're
you.
the number 3 and 4 now.
God's working for you in your life in ways you don't even know why. You know. So yeah, just make sure you're loud.
So you want
You're not
Don't
close
be
enough.
intimidated.
yeah,
Make
do
sure
we want
you're
to start
loud.
with our meditation just to get going?
Oh, who's timing you?
Wanna do that?
Fine. Okay. Media's favorite thing to do.
Are we meditating?
Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. Okay, ready?
Yeah.
Okay, go.
All right. So this meeting centers on this book by Emmett Fox, The Sermon on the Mount, and as it relates to recovery, alcoholism, drug addiction. And we're going to read a section from, I guess, starting on page 57. The first paragraph right in the middle there, it says indignation.
57?
Page
Yeah.
57. And the usual structure, 2 minutes, and then 2 minutes to wrap it up. So 4 minutes shares. Raise your hand, I guess, just to keep some structure and
Yep.
say your name. Somebody want to start reading? Do you mind?
I'm Paul, thanks.
Oh.
Oh,
Indignation, resentment, the desire to punish people or to see them punished. The desire to get even, the feeling it serves them right. All these things form a quite impenetrable barrier to spiritual power or progress. Jesus, dramatizing in a way, says that if you are bringing a gift to the altar and you remember that your brother has anything against you, you must put down your gift without attempting to offer it and go away and first make peace with your brother. And then when you have done that, your offering will be acceptable. It was the custom, as we all know, to take of various kinds to the temple, from bulls and cows down to doves and offerings of incense, or where it might be more convenient, an offering of money equivalent in value to these things. Now, under the new law, or our altar is our own consciousness, our offerings and treatments, our sacrifices and the error thoughts which we destroy or burn away in spiritual treatment. And so Jesus says that if, when we are about to pray, or remember that we have any wrong thoughts or hard feelings about our brother man, no matter who he may be, and irrespective of whether the object of our hostile thought be an individual or a body of people, we must pause there and treat ourselves until we have got rid of the sense of hostility and have once more restored the seamless garment of our spiritual integrity. To me, that means that, like we were talking about last week, if you wanna rephrase what we said last week, the thing for last week was what was it?
Oh yeah, John, I miss those glasses. Used to speak from the podium at prime time all the time. We're rocking those.
Mr. Magoo.
Years ago, I was like, this guy.
It says it is simply not possible to get any experience of God worth talking about or to experience very much spiritual power in the way of healing unless and until you have got rid of resentment and condemnation concerning your brother man. If I'm going anywhere with any resentment in my heart toward anybody, nothing's going to happen for me spiritually because I'm deep down inside resenting something or somebody. Until I can get rid of that anger or hostility toward anybody, it's not even worth trying to do anything positive. I must bury all the negative thoughts and any feelings of negativity before I could even start to move forward. Or else I'm just I'm faking. If you're going to try to be positive, you can't have any type of resentment or ill feelings toward anything or anyone, or you're just faking it yourself. You're being fake. To me, that's what I hear saying. You gotta be true to yourself. That's what the chip that I have in my pocket says. To thyself be true. If you're being true to yourself, and you have any type of anger or hostility toward anybody, man, I don't know. I don't see anything positive coming out of that. It's fake. It's a big farce. Ego take us anywhere we want. We can lie to ourselves that our ego take us anywhere we want. But at the end of the day, you got to be true to yourself and get rid of all resentments. Resentment is the number one offender, it says in the book. So if I'm gonna go anywhere forwards, I must get rid of that offense. That's the main offense that I must get rid of in order. That's the whole thing about doing an inventory and see my part that's wrong. It's usually my part that's taking me out of the game. It's not even what the other person has done to me. It's what I perceive the person's done to me. If I'm, like we said last week, if I'm looking at that person like a sick person and trying to be of service and help, then it's going to trump any resentment, because I'm trying to work in treatment, as they say, you know? That's it for me.
It's both.
I think it's pretty to the point. He just smashes away at it, keeps smashing away at it.
I have something. I'm just reading some of these. I was reading some of these comments from some of the people in the live stream on YouTube are repeat. They've been coming for a couple weeks in a row now, and it's pretty cool. Maria Crow said, "This is my first group, and I came back." Chad Young said, "It is very genuine. I love it." Ellie said, "This is awesome." Maria Crow said, "Yeah, I've never been to AA, but I come here." Well, and then Chad here, but they don't realize they're doing all this for us, and it's sad to watch. And then Chad said, "So I support them 100%." And then Maria said, "But it's inspiring to defend." And it just makes me think of the resentment that I get, that Rudy's gotten. You know, we're putting ourselves out there on a level that most people aren't, not just as it relates to this meeting, but as it relates to like our everyday life, you know, Wickham and my wife, and we're all just kind of, we're trying to be super transparent, and we've all agreed and we're willing to show like our flaws and our defects and how we overcome them, because I feel like that's one thing that AA gave me. I was able to see somebody who was flawed and broken, and I went, wow, like I don't feel so bad about my shit now, because I feel like we're the same. So that shared pain is cathartic. So I wanted to try to do that to social media, because it's been something I've always been very active on, and I think it's one really incredible way to connect. Something I've always been very active on, and I think it's one really incredible way to connect to other human beings. For the reason, being like super honest and vulnerable and transparent, like you're putting out the good with the bad, and then when the bad gets put out there, a lot of people want to talk shit. And you know, when I hear somebody say, "Oh, you're so," like, I have people saying I'm some narcissist, right? Okay, well, I kind of am. So I don't need to be so mad at what people are saying, right? Maybe, and on a bad day, I'll get like really frustrated about it, and I'll get resentful. But I think that if I can stay connected to what we just read, which is that if someone has resentment in their heart, then they're not treated, and they're not at peace, and that gives me the opportunity to have some empathy for them and be like, oh, I don't know. It's a really tricky, for me, it shows up more in me defending myself because other people are resenting me. So I'm like, now I'm like, wait, motherfucker, like, don't you know I'm trying to do all this for like a good, like, at least I'm trying to do something good. Like, I'm not just like trying to like do pranks and like just get whatever I can. Like, most people online are just trying to do whatever they can to get views. It's like we're putting all this energy into trying to like promote a message of experience, strength, hope, and truth. And it's like, so I could get very self-righteous in my defending that and get resentful at the people. And so I guess that's kind of an interesting new way that that's been showing up. And I don't know if anyone has anything on that, because I think that we're going to be like society and AA and this message is going, I think, is going to start creeping its way more and more into like social media and the internet. I think everything is going to be moving in that direction, especially with COVID right now. I mean, you can't really even do anything without streaming it, or if you want to connect to other people, you have to go into a Zoom meeting or whatever it is. So it's like, I guess like when people are inside of a car or behind a keyboard, it's so much easier for them to just fucking spit venom. You know, it's like when people honk at me, it's like, motherfucker, you wouldn't be doing that to me if you were behind me in a line. You wouldn't like push me. You know what I mean? But because they're in a car, they're like all honking and they're going like this, and it's like, I don't know. It's like this weird thing where people are more hostile and more aggressive and more angry when they're like barricaded, or when they're either behind a keyboard or when, you know, John 0856 with no fucking picture and no post is like talking shit. And I'm like, dude, like it's hard to not get resentful, but like I said, recognizing that like if that's what they're doing, it probably has more to do with them than me. And if I'm reacting to it, it has more to do with me.
Yep.
Like, yeah, like I am like, I do have an issue with my ego. I do make everything all about me. I mean, you know, I guess all alcoholics are struggle with narcissism on some
That's what it
level.
says in the book.
Okay, so yeah.
Narcissistic to a point, yeah.
So I am, and now, but I'm here trying to look at that and own that and do something about that. So I don't know. It's just something I was thinking about when I was reading those comments. Thanks. Rudy.
Jonathan,
Or
alcoholic.
Jonathan and Rudy.
So, you know, there's somewhere it says that, you know, those that follow the path of Christ are, you know, not exempt from persecution. In other words, you know, it's like, you know, it's just one day. Now, these are just principles, but, you know, I've been a public figure for a long ass time, you know, just, you know, in my carrying of, you know, my experience, strength and hope. You know, I've published a lot of books that are very, very vulnerable. You know, I've put my fucking nightmares, my fears, and my sins, and my, you know, just general fucked upness there in a very honest, vulnerable way. And, you know, it's like, that's what I've learned on this journey, you know, on this spiritual path. You know, that's what I've learned in AA is like, you know, tell the truth, no matter what. I'm not making friends, you know, I'm not out to, you know, win friends and influence people, you know, because what, you know, you're not free from persecution if you're telling the truth. That's, you know, that's the world we live in. That's the way it is. I've had to come to accept that. Does it suck? It sucks. But, you know, I've had to really meditate a lot on this and just come to realize that, well, you know, it's like, I was talking to a guy the other day. This guy is Jewish, you know, and he was like, his rabbi said, you know, in our tradition, I don't know about, you know, what that is, but he said, the rabbi said to him, in our tradition, we don't talk about heaven and hell. We talk about heaven and earth. And I thought about that for a minute. I was like, well, so that means that this world is a little bit of hell. And well, you know, you could see that. You know, I've come to pretty much understand that, you know, living in this world, in this material reality, in this dimension, is kind of a world of, you know, trials and corrections for the soul, passing through this, you know, material reality. You know, maybe I've done some really fucked up shit in past lives that I have to be corrected through the trials and purifications that I got to go through here. I don't know. I mean, you know, that gets to be a real deep study, but, you know I'm alcoholic. I know, you know, my study in this lifetime is, recovery through spiritual principles from, a mental illness and a spiritual affliction, like alcoholism. Yeah. And in that battle, on that battlefield, I've realized that, yeah, like, I'm narcissistic, I'm self-centered to the extreme. I possess, all these really fucked up character flaws cause me to be constantly in conflict with my surroundings, and very hard to accept things as they are. This is who I am. This is what I can't try to be from some saintly place when I'm not there. I have to lay my fucking cards on the table and be real and tell my truth. And hey, it's none of my, you hear this in AA all the time, it's none of my fucking business what other people think about me. It's really not. But I know I'm an alcoholic. I published my first book. I got like 500 Amazon reviews just praising me like I was the next best thing to sliced bread. This guy is like, oh my God, this thing. And I'm reading all these things and I'm just basking in the glory of all this approval. And then I come across one negative comment, one out of like 500. And it's some guy saying, oh, this guy's full of shit. He doesn't know how to write. He's a fucking poser, this and that. And I just was like, let me find him. I was like searching to find this guy. I was going to go and like burn his house down with him in it, I mean, that was my mentality at the time. And I realized, like, all those 500 comments of just praise and approval and love and identification and people telling me, oh man, I read your book and it saved my life. All that just went right out the fucking window. And I'm focusing on this one fucking Mama Luke that's telling me, like, I ain't shit, and I really gave that a lot of attention. And I realized that's my alcoholism. That is my narcissism. That is, my, it's like I got this built-in sensor that I will just go right to the darkest place just by default and just ignore all the beautiful rainbows and butterflies and love and good things around me because I see this one little flaw and I'm going in there. I'm going in. This is something I have to be very vigilant about. I have to be attentive about that all day, every day in my life, because I possess this, dive straight to the fucking shit and wallow around in it, and this is alcoholism. This is what I don't know about I know this is what I'm up against. I know this is, a crucial part of my study, and I got to just, keep digging, uncovering, discovering, discarding, because this is not stuff that serves me well on the spiritual path. It just causes me to be in pain and despair and conflict and anger and just sadness and just a bunch of really fucked up shit that is not, my spiritual purpose. So, I just got to keep praying. I got to keep telling the truth. I got to keep, being honest with myself about, what it is that holds me back so that I can be free of these encumbrances. Thanks.
Thank you, John.
Quick question for you, John, before we move on. So how do you do that? Like when you do see that one comment and like all of a sudden everything's gone and like the tunnel leads right to that dark. Like what do you do?
I pray because honestly, I know from my own experience that I don't have the power to change my resentments. That's what I was going to ask Paul. It's like, yeah, how do you do that? I think Paul's got an answer for it.
Yeah.
But it's like, yeah.
I said it last week. I taught you guys how to manage resentment. It's in the big book.
See, these are sick people. Pray for sick people. And I was saying last week, I think it was last week, I was saying how easy it is to pray for somebody that's sick, even though you want to fucking rip their fucking heart out and eat it. How easy is it to pray for somebody that's sick when you realize how much fucking pain and suffering you had to go through to get well?
You might have to get humiliated into humility again until you're finally able to break down and hit a bottom and go to God, because your ego is going to be first and foremost.
It's going to be.
It says in the Tebow papers, no amount of time in this program can defeat the encroachment of the ego of the
beast,
the resurgence of the ego. no time, no matter, you can throw your number at me if you have 50 years. There's no time that can defeat the encroachment of a upward moving ego, because it must move forward. That's the Tebow papers, if you guys want to go deep.
And the ego is said to have remarkable recuperative powers.
That's what I was trying to
So it gets
Recuperative
smashed,
powers, yeah.
my ego gets smashed. And see, that's why it's easier for me to pray for people that I kind of, that offend me. Because I realized that, somebody out there was praying for me when I was, raging through life like, a fucking bull in a flower garden. And, somebody somewhere in this world or in the other, somebody was praying for my redemption. And when I hit bottom, because there ain't no fucking way that I know of that an alcoholic or anybody as stubborn as an alcoholic is ever going to get well without hitting bottom. And hitting bottom is a painful fucking place to be. I think everybody here can agree to that because we've been there. Hitting bottom is not, it's not, I didn't sail into AA on the wings of victory. I came in here beat up from the feet up, thoroughly done, humiliated, fucked up, just tore up and miserable. And so if I'm praying for somebody who's unconscious in any way to come into the light, then basically I'm knowing that person is going to fucking eat shit, die 1,000 deaths to get I did. And I don't see any other way. So in a way, it's kind of satisfying to be able to go like, okay, man, I wish you health, happiness, open paths to recovery and all good things that I wish for myself. And now you're going to have to eat shit to get there because there ain't no other way. When somebody's that sick, the only way they're going to get well is through, that ego being smashed to fucking smithereens. So that makes it a little easier for a resentful, motherfucker like me to pray for somebody's redemption because I know it's not going to be an easy ride.
It's good to look at it from us doing this work. It's good to say that we could, that we're doing this as a service work. Imagine the people that are making these comments, they don't even do this work. We got to really look at them as sick people because they don't even do this work. They haven't even read what we read and know what we know to pause and think about that. They're living off of pure ego.
Hamish on this one.
Rudy's going to share first.
Okay.
And then we'll go to Hamish.
What I was gonna say is kind of like halfway gone now, but that's okay. It goes back to like the narcissist. 90% of us in this circle are also creatives. So being a creative, you're more prone to being a narcissist as well because you're like creating things on a regular basis and you're like, look, I made this thing. Look at this thing that I made. And when you open it up to people who aren't doing the work or who are also creatives, even, it's like open to discussion and for them to have their own opinion on it. And what you were saying about how it's not easy to like be honest about what we're doing and where we're at. There's this poem on Margaret Thatcher's desk, who's like she was the Prime Minister of the UK. And it says, you have enemies, no enemies, you say. Alas, my friend, the boast is poor. He who has mingled in the fray of duty that the brave endure must have made foes. If you have none, small is the work that you have done. You've hit no traitor on the hip. You've dashed no cup from perjured lip. You've never turned the wrong to right. You've been a coward in the fight. So like, basically, if you don't have anyone that's like pissed off at what you're doing or what you've done, you don't have anything to say that you've done at all.
True that.
So, I mean, even though we're getting shit for it, at least we're doing something. That's all. Thank you, Rudy.
Hamish alcoholic. It's too like resentment, and then what you guys are talking about, like for me, resentment, right, is an outward thing versus like that other thing you're talking about, an inward thing, which I'll get to. Like resentment. Like I rolled up in here, and you guys were talking about surfing. That was my bag of shit, and I owe you guys an apology. I have a giant no. Like I have a giant resentment against the surfing culture, and it's because yeah, I am the cancer. Like I'm fully like, and it's something that I don't. That my resentment's only based upon my shadow, right? And it's the altar, like the thing's talking about when you come to the altar. So this is the altar tonight. Like I showed up, I heard something, I roll with this resentment about this thing, that it's truly me because I know exactly what it is. But it's an unsolvable resentment, but I haven't done enough work on it to be at peace because I'm doing, when I step even back, why am I resentment about that? Well, I'm resentment about the workaround I do with it, the bypass on it, dude, because I am, but I don't do it. So then I kind of sneak around, but I'm smoking the surf crack, dude, the whole thing. I am the cancer, but because I don't participate in the cancer, it doesn't stop what I know is going on. And then I already came before that pissed about all this other stuff that's going on because I got a kid and I'm like, what the fuck are these people doing to these children, man? Like I got a kid. What do you people? This is child abuse. What's going on? So I resent everybody for doing a workaround and being like, well, they said so and this said so and blah, blah, blah. So I roll with this resentment because again, it's like, I know the answer. I told you the answer last time. Like I peace with myself and why I have resentment because I checked with God. I didn't do all the stuff, so I walked around with this bag of shit that I've been carrying. And then I hear you guys talking about surfer, and all of a sudden, like I'm like, okay, now let's go. But if I'm to come to the altar, I have to be true before you because it's not. You guys are having your like conversation about whatever it is, and I'm just walking around in my douchebag head about it all, like resentment because I got some work to do, right? Before I come to the altar and say I got anything to offer. The other thing I would say about this social media stuff, as a person who puts himself out there, dude, it's not them, it's you, man. And if you don't want the stuff, don't look at the stuff, don't look at the praise and don't look at the negative, dude. But I will tell you the thing that I've learned from my journey from it. The only way that somebody can get under your skin is if they're telling the truth, dude. And that's it, man. It's reading all the comments. Dude, you can say also personal stuff that I've dealt with my shadow, but the comments that get to me is shit that I know is true, and I fucking haven't dealt with it. And you're the enemy, man, because you're calling me out on it. Because not because I'm sitting here minding my own business like you guys were, because I've put myself out in a public platform in an anonymous world of keyboard warriors and shit, and they're just sitting there like, oh yeah, let's see, click. And you have elicited that thing. So instead of it being about them, it's always about me. Why did they get under my skin? Because I could read 1,000 comments talking about my fucking wife, about how I live my life, about this, and that. But then when they get me, the ones that get me, it's all like a truth because the stuff that I've worked on and dealt with, I'm untouchable. I don't carry any weight. But the ones that get me is because I put myself out there and I'm supposed to use that moment as a mirror to go, hey, why does this get to me? And what am I putting out there that's reflecting back to me? And if you get out of them and look at it just on baseline, there is a truth. And then I'll just always tell you, dude, is when you dig into them, they're always anonymous. So who is it that's sending you the message? Because you chose to put the send button out into the universe with whatever it is we're doing. And you got a ping back like a radar. And it's usually some anonymous person. So who is it? Is it you or is it God or is it them? Right? And you made a covenant with God to send this stuff out into the ether. And it's just pinging back radar signals going, now look at this little dark shadow you got here. And you're like, no, I'm putting myself out there. But it's not. It's always like, all right. And I gotta tell you, dude, one will ruin 500. Why? Because I got an unsolved issue inside myself. And the minute I solve it, those comments never come back and the troll disappears. Problem solved.
That's why you gotta look at your own side of the street before you go make amends. You gotta forgive in order to be forgiven, as the book would say. The prayer that Mikey read last week.
What do they say? Resentment's the number one offender, right?
Yep.
And we live in a time where it's pretty, especially if you're awake and we're doing what we're doing here. Like you even said it. The irony is we're meeting in person, right? But no one can. Yeah, we can. We can do anything we want. The resentment is we've stopped being God's ordained children, and we're like letting people push us around. Like I'm resentful at myself for fucking complying sometimes. Like, but I got to do what I told you the other day is bypass it with love and comedy and humor and the whole thing.
All the resentment is doing is cropping up, like it says in the book, 100 forms of fear. So that pushes it back on me. Well, he was going to ask me how to master resentment. Like I read last week, first you got to pray for yourself not to be angry. And if that doesn't work, it says pray for that other person for 2 weeks. Page 552. And you'll get tired of praying for a motherfucker. You come to see that it's your side of the street at the end of the day, you know? It's hard for us to point the finger at ourselves. When you're pointing a finger out, there's 3 pointing back, I, self, me. You know? I gotta look at it that way. I can't take anyone's inventory without looking at mine first. What's harming me about this, what this person said, you know? That's where I gotta look inward and see where I'm sick, what's making me sick in that moment. It's hard to do. It's a hard pill to swallow when you're in ego and self and alcoholism. So we talk about in prime time, alcoholism, ego, and self. Those are the main things that have to be smashed, right? They have to be smashed, it says in the book. The thought of it must be smashed, right? That's before step one. You know? It's a hard pill to swallow when you're in it, though. We could talk all this good shit while we're good here and treat it. But once you go and treat it, try to talk that shit. That's where you got to be true to yourself. It's a hard one. That's why we got to keep going in on this work. Because the message never changes, but the ego keeps rising. It's remarkable recuperative powers. It'll come in different ways. It'll attack you in different ways. It's the alcoholism doing its push-ups, waiting. That's what they say, right? The disease is doing push-ups, just waiting. It's exercising. It's gonna find different ways to attack your psyche or your consciousness. That's what I was gonna say. Heaven and earth. In this book, when you look in the Lord's Prayer, it says heaven is the consciousness of God, and earth is heaven is the presence of God, and earth is your consciousness. Heaven and earth. Hell is, I believe, the ego. If you're looking at this metaphysically, which this is a book of metaphysics, it takes the Bible and breaks it down metaphysically. So it goes deep. You can go real deep on this one.
What page was this again?
Bless you.
Thank you.
Which one?
57.
Yeah.
Started on 57.
57, Sermon on the Mount by Emmett Fox. Want to read another? Let's read another chapter or paragraph. So we just read up until
50.
oh, so we're now on 58.
Yeah, Jesus builds up this tremendous.
Jesus builds up this tremendous lesson again in the Oriental tradition by employing a series of steps, 3 in this case. He says first that whoever is angry with his brother shall be in danger. Second, that to be really or seriously, one may say vindictively hostile to another, is to be in grave danger. And finally, that to hold so low an opinion about a fellow creature as to allow ourselves to consider him to be outside the pale, so to speak, is to shut ourselves off from any hope of spiritual fruit while we remain in this state of mind. To call a man a fool in this sense means that we consider that no good is to be expected from him. And to do this is to bring very serious consequences upon ourselves. Boy,
That's a heavy one.
yeah, I've been guilty of this more times than I care to acknowledge, because these kind of judgments, that's what they are. These kind of judgments crop up in my consciousness, on an almost constantly, and when I'm praying to God to be, a child of God and to be godlike in my dealings with the world, and God lets me continually, curse my brother or sister in this way, I think God is, allowing me to experience whatever I have to experience to really come to know the truth of what, has just been said here, that this is condemning myself to consequences, severe consequences, very severe, serious consequences. Maybe I have not hit that bottom enough for me to be willing to let go of those judgments. And, it takes what it fucking takes, man. I don't want to live that way. I don't want to live in a world of consequences. And yet, I'll probably just keep making the same mistakes again and again until the consequences become unbearable. I don't know. That seems to be the only way I've ever really deeply learned anything, I got sober 20 years ago because of consequences. I didn't come in here out of virtue. I come in here out of consequence. The consequences were just so much pain and suffering that I was just like, right, that's it. I'll do whatever the fuck you want. I can't live like this anymore. I can't even look at myself in the mirror. I just want to fucking die, So consequences, there's a lot to be said for consequences. Somewhere else in this book, Emmett Fox talks about pain being a relatively good thing, because it's what drives us into submission. It's what drives the ego into that state of temporary humility to where a little bit of light could get in. So, I don't want to make any excuses. I don't want to be the guy that justifies his wrongdoing. I don't want to be that guy anymore. I own it, man. I am a fucked up alcoholic in recovery, man. I'm 20 years sober, and it doesn't mean shit because I'm only sober today. 20 years is just a reference point. It's something that I can look back on like, okay, I've learned this, I've experienced that. This is all good reference for me, but it's not like a badge of honor or anything like that, because I talk to people all the time who are 6 months sober, 6 days sober, and they seem to be a lot spiritually fit than I am. So, and that gives me a barometer too, by where I can look at myself with honesty and say, yeah, man, you got some work to do here, This is just scratching the surface, man. This is just spiritual kindergarten for me. And I'm glad to be here. So that's it.
Thank you.
Thanks, John.
DA.
Mine's DDA.
Yeah.
Welcome back.
Thank you. I have a couple things about it. Just for me, I can only speak from like my with the resentment thing. It's always me. It's never anyone else. That's just the bottom line. And the only thing that's going to make it the other person is my ego. And because from like Hamish was saying, resentment to me is just Mother Earth just giving me a little pull and showing me what I got to work on, showing me some childhood traumas or why things affect me the way they do. And that's God. That person who I should have this resentment is actually just God showing me what I got to work on. And so with this paragraph of like the severe consequence is like the karma thing. And karma, people think like, oh, that person robbed me, karma's gonna get him or something like that. It doesn't work like that. Like karma is like the act of having resentment, the act of having that ego. You're living in hell regardless, because that type of behavior, that type of stuff is in you. So that is your instant karma. Karma is instantaneous. That severe consequence is having that resentment, even if we think that resentment to that person's horrific. That person did a horrible thing. Fuck that guy. Okay, but that little hatred that I said, fuck that guy, will then come off to my brother, or my best friend, or my partner, because that thought process of like having and being able to judge someone less than myself is the consequence. It's the disease in me. And I think when I can get to a place of just no matter what happens, looking at it as just a reminder to look within, that's where I start healing and become connected. And the fact that I'm going to give anyone the opportunity or the power to affect my soul from an external, I'm the only one that should have the control of affecting my own body, not anyone else. And it just always reminds me to look within. That's it.
The 12 and 12 lays it down in step 1 right here. It says here, we know that little good can come to any alcoholic who joins AA unless he first accepted his devastating weakness and all its consequences. Until he so humbles himself, his sobriety, if any, will be precarious. Of real happiness, he will find none at all. Proved beyond doubt by an immense experience. This is one of the facts of AA life. So that's an anchorage page that my sponsor has me hold on to. Unless I can admit my devastating weakness, which is if I come into AA, I'm an alcoholic. But now I put the alcoholic away. My devastating weakness is my brain and the way I think. I got a broken brain that thinks in a fucked up way. And my ego, alcoholism, ego, and self, the way I think. And the devastating and the consequences of that is everything negative that happens as a result of my thinking. I have to accept that. If I don't accept that, I can't do any work. That's it.
It's like a foundation, it's a foundation. So, that once again, like I said, consequences and pain, according to metaphysics, according to Emmett Fox, according to what just was read by Paul, is not a bad thing, because it's the trampoline. I got to hit that bottom on the trampoline before I can come up, because if I have not suffered those consequences of wrong thinking, wrong behavior, wrong action, then I will never get off that path. And that path is the path of hell, like Didier was saying. That's a hell path that I'm on. And until that hell path becomes unbearable, I'm not going to want to get off it, because it's kind of comfortable. I'm familiar with it. I know how to curse my brother and sister. I know how to, put myself above others or put myself below others. I know how to do all this fucked up shit to myself and the world around me. This is simple. It's default.
I like punching people.
Yeah, it's fun until it ain't fun no more.
You get punched back.
Yeah, until you get punched back like 10 times harder, and you're like, oh God, help me. It takes a lot for, somebody as stubborn and egotistical and narcissistic as me to humble myself before God and my fellow human beings. It takes a lot of pain. So, God bless the pain.
Gus, as it relates to the ego, like I experienced something today that like I now actually have a little bit of a resentment with myself. Like we just bought this house, we're opening up a sober living, like closed escrow today, and like I wanted to put that message out there, and I wanted to post about it, and it actually, like I'm very, very humbled, and I'm very excited of this new chapter in my life. Honestly, help people and give away what I've been given. But like my ego in the back of my mind's like, okay, well, I want to do this post, but I tell them a little bit about myself. Like I did these tours, I did this, I like managed these bands, just to make sure that they knew that what I'm fucking doing, what I'm done, what I'm doing next. And they're just like, like that wasn't the intention, but like in the back of my mind, like my ego I was like, well, just let them know a little bit.
I see it.
You know?
Ozzy, Cypress.
Yeah, like I just had to like
Still
this
had all
name
the
drop
names.
it. But it actually did come from like a pure like out of love. Like I'm only actually doing this like to really help people and help myself, you know. But like my ego like snuck in there, like through the back door. I was like, well, come here a little bit too, you know, like don't leave me outside.
I want to say something about that, Jonathan. You know, I read something a long time ago where it said, I think it was attributed to Mandela, or it says you don't serve God by playing small, you know, and you know, it's like if you've got all this cred, if you've got all this accomplishment, you know, there's a big difference between humility and this false modesty is where, you know, it's like somebody says, oh, you're the G, you did all this, you did all that. And I'm like, oh, shucks. It weren't nothing, Ma. You know, as opposed to being like, yeah, okay, you know, because that could be a tool too, if it's used with the right intention, if it's used with God in the picture. And God's saying, well, there you go. So God is saying, go for it, kid. You know, let them know that you're a badass because you could be an inspiration to many. You know,
you might be the only person they'll listen to.
And there's that. You know, are they going to listen to some loser or are they going to listen to some guy who's done all this great shit? So you know, that's you know, don't. I just believe that, you know, that's just ego. When I'm trying to play small, when I'm trying to, you know, be like, well, I don't want to say, you know, I did this and that and the other thing because they're going to think I'm, you know, being all, you know, big on myself, you know. But honestly, you know, that's just that's fear. That's ego too, where I'm being like, oh, what are they going to think of me? They're going to think I'm some kind of, you know, show off. You know, they're going to think I'm trying to play the big shot. It's none of my fucking business what they think of me. If I'm able to serve people through whatever, you know, grandness, you know, then go for it, man. You know, Patrick does that, and you know, we all have that, you know, conflict about it. But the fact is that we're being of service for where we are by being real, by being who we are, and by being humble, not modest, humble. Humble, as defined in AA, says humility is just the desire to seek and do God's will. Is God's will for us to be all like, you know, self-depreciating and put ourselves down so that maybe somebody doesn't, you know, somebody doesn't make some nasty comment about me? You know, it's not my fucking business if they make a nasty judgment against me. It's not my business. I'm doing God's work, and I have to affirm that. I'm a child of God, and I'm here to do God's work, and if you don't like it, that's cool.
Wow.
Yeah, you're using it as a tool to become or to be a light of the world and a salt of your. That's your light. That's your salt. That's your attraction. It's attraction rather than promotion. You know, you're not you. If you're looking at it as promoting yourself, it's attraction.
But if yourself is doing God's work, then you're promoting God.
That's all you're doing is telling people your accolades. That's different. But you put it out there, you know, that might attract the people.
You're not putting it out there to get laid or, you know, make money. You're putting it out there to better be of service. I mean, maybe those things will come too, whatever. But, you know, if people are judging you for putting yourself out there by being vulnerable, by, you know,
then
learning to
you're blessed
lose,
for righteousness' sake.
You know, if they're judging you for that, it's because their hearts are filled with envy, because they're not where they want to be. So they want to be pissed off at you because their hearts are filled with, you know, self-hatred and envy. And God pity them for that, you know? That's why we pray for these motherfuckers.
Yeah, and like I was all in my head about it.
Because like, they're really sick.
Yeah, and like nothing but light and love and positivity came from that post. Like there was not a single like people who know me, they knew if I was like full of shit. They were just like, no, dude, I see it. I get it.
Well, there you
know.
I think only
you're actually taking if you look at it, you're taking a step down from the places you've been, you know?
Yeah.
You're actually taking a humble step down.
I am,
doing service work.
I think that like I have we know, we all know my friend Tim. We love him. He's on a horse in Mexico, blacked out.
What? On a horse?
He posted this photo.
I know, it's fun.
Did you see that photo of him on the horse?
Oh my god!
My partner, he drinks and he may or may not have a problem, but he sometimes talks about like, oh, like, you know, you don't want to make it look like you're trying so hard. which is kind of ironic because of the horse post, you know, like somebody had to like, you know, had to get all set up.
Yeah.
I don't like Gus is just saying, hey man, like these are some things I've done that I'm proud of. Like, right on. Like it's cool. Like we don't need to hide those things. You know, I feel sometimes I'll do shit like that from an honest place of like, yo, like it's honest. It's not me trying to like pretend like I'm so cool that I don't need to mention. Like I'm just out here mentioning whatever. You know what I'm saying? I'm just out here trying to be honest. Like, yeah, like I did do these things and now I'm doing this thing. And like it's all good. Like I really like that you brought up a specific example. I think that's one of the reasons I love film so much, because we're watching a story and we can identify with that story rather than speaking about it in a general way. Like, so like we all were here when my cousin came in, and, you know, he was angry, and I loved how like DDA reacted. Like, I feel like I was on that tip too. Like, but since then, this kid has done some stuff, and he actually reached out to me recently, like after like a lot of really, I've been put into a really bad situation legally because of his recklessness. And, you know, rightfully, like I deserve to have a resentment, but like he reached out to me, bro. And I like called him and I was like, dude, like, what's up, bro? Like, I love you. Cause he needed me to help him get his tools or whatever. And I was like, yeah, like, come by, dude. Like, I know you're sick. Like, I know you're sick. Like, I've been you before. I feel like I'm pretty lucky in that respect, where I've been able to. I mean, I'm always keeping rattlesnakes around.
What?
I am, like Xander and you know, just different people that Charlie, just different people. Like alcoholics we're like unstable, and when you're going into the gutter and you're trying to help people, and I have people working for me who probably shouldn't be working for me. Throughout my life, I've always had people like me who are not so like, you're like, what are you doing, people? And I'm really grateful that I can see it this way today. Like, you shouldn't have in your life because they're too sick, but I don't need to resent them, right? So I don't resent dude, you know, who came in here and did all that and has done all these things. I just know that like I gotta keep him over here. Mm-hmm. And like Danielle, you've experienced this with some people too, right? And the beautiful thing is when you see one of those people, like we used to have a dude here at our meeting, this dude Johnny. I don't know if you guys remember Johnny. He's amazing, and he's now got a couple months sober, and he's like at Awakenings. But this was a guy who we were like, yo, we should probably just keep this rattlesnake over here, you know? But it's so cool when sometimes these people come around and they finally hit a bottom and get sober. So I think there is a dance that we have to do. Like, I don't know, it's hard because we're out here trying to help people that are sick, and then to find that where that boundary is. And, but yeah, I just don't want to, I don't need to be angry. I just need to know where my boundary is. Because if I'm continuing to let the rattlesnake back into my life over and over and over again because of forgiveness, because I have this amazing gift of being able to forgive people because I see myself in them, then I keep setting myself up to get angry. And that's something I've done my whole life.
You can forgive someone without letting them like.
Yeah, and I'm learning how to do that.
Yeah.
But I don't.
I mean, it's a weird, like, it's weird to find where that is.
I mean,
though.
Rudy.
Yeah.
Rudy kind of burned me.
Yeah, he did.
A couple years ago, pretty bad.
Mm-hmm.
And then she came back into this meeting, and now she's like deep in the mix in the family. And I love the journey and the path that she's on. And I think that if we can be transparent about like these specific situations, people can like learn from what we're dealing with in a way that I think is almost even more profound than like speaking about stuff on a general level.
Yeah.
It's almost like watching some movie of like kids tripping through and like learning and growing and using these spiritual principles in our lives. Like, what Gus was sharing about.
But if I kind of just to go back to what the text is, we've been reading it this for 6 weeks now since I've been here. Well, but it's we're drifting from the thing because this is all really about the internal, right?
Yeah.
Like it doesn't matter who watching. It's all about your relationship with God. So like the question Gus asking or what you're talking about, it doesn't matter what the fuck's going on out here. It's before God, right? That's what that big rule about is. You can justify all sorts of stupid shit down here, and it's all this because of that, and whatever. But the question that Gus was asking about it, like the reason you're asking the question is because you're not sure because you got to answer to God, regardless of what you do or the outcome of it or whether people approve, disapprove, whatever it is. If it was pure in that sense, you would never ask God. And this is what that whole thing's about is the thought life. If it doesn't get to that highest node of order, you can justify all sorts of stuff. And that's where we're falling into this things. It's like, I did this, I did that, but it equals this, so that's okay. But at the end of the day, dude, God knows exactly what your intention is. And if your intention is bullshit, it doesn't matter how justified it is, because your truth come from the seed of bullshit manipulation. And if that is the seed that you plant, everything from it, good or bad, is based upon a seed. Like, right, you judge it, like that's one of the things, you judge a tree by its fruit, right? So if we're on the spiritual plane, we have to be real clear to ourselves, not on the outward or what anyone thinks. The only one we need to be clear with is God, and God knows exactly what a fraud I am. God knows exactly how full of shit I am, dude. And my conniving, even when I think I'm not conniving, because I do it. I can't speak for anyone else but myself. And I have to always go, right? Isn't that what the 10th step's all about? Is at the end of the day, we have to clean up all these trespasses. We constantly trespassing, and I'm constantly in thought myself to believe that, oh, well, what I'm doing is because I asked the question, that makes it I can justify it just because I asked the question. To me, that's always where it is the rubber meets the road, of where we're always a little bit fucked because we didn't ask God before any of our actions. And if we asked God before we did anything, you would never be mad. You would never have all this bullshit going on in your life. But we forget to ask God, and then we get all these things, and then we got to backtrack it all and be like, well, I don't know, what am I doing here, dude? It seems good, doesn't seem good, and this and that. And then, like what Jonathan says, and whatever we all say is, God wants us to carry the message, but we first have to make sure we know what the message is, which is that thought life thing, because we're all tricksters in our heads. Mm-hmm. Oh, me number one.
Mm-hmm.
Corey.
Yes.
Not sure how to articulate this really. Just in my experience, the ego is always at the forefront of every kind of suffering that I'm involved in my life. It's a matter of perspective, like it's how do I see this situation? This person offends me or has hurt me. The pain is real, but it's a matter of perspective. Like it's not, I want vengeance. That's what my ego says. Anytime I follow what my ego is telling me, then it's just gonna compound the problem and strengthen the ego. And the first thing is always, how is my ego involved in this? What is it that my ego is driving? And is that in line with God? Probably not. And if not, then what is it? What is the right course of action? What's the right perspective on this? And often in my experience, it's just that God is allowing this person to be revealed to me, but through this painful experience, as someone who is sick like me, God is trusting me to handle it without my ego and just see that is someone that I need to pray for. So it's a revealing of people. That person may have meant it for evil, but God is able to use anything for good. And that person is revealed to me as someone that needs help. And if I see it as just me, my ego says, "Oh, I'm hurt," it's that person's sick as well, and it's revealed by their actions. Their sickness is revealed in how they treat me. So my job is not to take vengeance, because vengeance isn't mine. Vengeance belongs to God. And it's just a person that's revealed to me that I need to help, and it was revealed to me through that experience. And praying for them doesn't necessarily mean, oh, I hope everything's all cool and good and everything goes their way, because that's not how we learn and grow. It's, I hope that person, I hope, God, that you deal with them the way that you've dealt with me, because I've grown out of these painful experiences. I don't wish pain on anybody unless it helps them grow. Then I certainly do wish whatever it is that God has for them. It's not my job. I want the credit for fixing it and for the vengeance, but it's not mine. It's not my credit. The ego wants the credit. I mean, it's perspective. How do I see the situation? What is it that my ego wants out of this? And what course of action do I take to avoid what the ego wants and instead see properly what God wants out of this? That's it.
Thanks, Corey.
Thank you, Corey.
I've had this thought. It's come up like 10 times during this meeting, and it's like just something that I've been. It's like a teeter-tottering thing for me when we say like, "Oh, I need to." Just for me, it's like, "Oh, I need to pray for this person because this person's sick." For me, it teeters on a little bit of self-righteousness. Could be a teeter on like, "Oh, this person's sick. I'm not." Pray for this person to get in the thing. For me, what helps is like I just gotta keep what this person feels about someone. So it's like kind of going back to what Corey says. To pray for, yeah, I'll pray for them, but like back to, it's just not my problem really. What's my real problem is stay connected and like deal with my own issues and dealing with that stuff and realizing how fucked up we might think it is, or how fucked up we might think someone loses a life at 20 years old, or someone homeless on the fucking street goes through heroin or whatever. And we could say sick, or it could be like, no, it in my heart, like it's all meant to be. And it's way beyond my ego to even, it's my ego even trying to make just and try to acknowledge and break it apart and make some type of sense of why these things are happening, or like, no, this is happening because of this or the karma, or just that knowing that everything that's happening is quite exactly what's supposed to be fucking happening. And every thought that you have, every ego trigger that happens in your brain, every happiness trigger that happens in your brain, they're all just. Everyone's just. Everyone's thought pattern is just. And like, I just think we kind of get real heavy in this shit. And I don't think it has to be that heavy if we really have the faith to know that everything's happening the way it's supposed to. So.
Thanks, DDA. Right on.
I agree with you too, DDA. Like someone told me this. It's, like someone does something that wrong to me or cuts me off on the road. I'm not praying that guy never does that again, or that person never cuts me off again. Like the prayer is to let that person see and connect with the power, because not everybody's always doing that, right? And yeah, God has a plan for everybody, and they're on their road. But sometimes, like for all of us, it's easy to like disconnect, and we're like back in ego, living in this plane of like, we know what we're doing, and we're navigating through God when we're not. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's just for me, like I don't have that. Like I don't have it. Me, like, if I like, I just see for myself. If I'm like go to the point of like, no, I need to pray for this person because it's sick. It's like, who the fuck am I to like judge that person that they're fucking sick? What? I'm sick for even having a judgment and even just like making a difference between me and this person. When how do you know that they're not the fucking enlightened guru one? You know, I'm the sick one. But I just say they're fucking sick and I'm gonna pray for them because I'm gonna push them away and separate myself instead of look at them as they are me. And like that's just the kind of like I'm not saying fucking praying for someone is bullshit. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying for me it's something like I had to like bring up. It's like I find myself and I can see myself, especially with doing this work stuff and like how I like do work of like being able to be self-righteous and being able to look down upon people that don't live a spiritual life or like people that don't come to these meetings or people that are really obsessed with fucking making money or obsessed in fucking work or obsessed in drugs and then I start fucking telling oh no they're sick and like creating this fucking separation when it's all perfect. The sickies, the wells, the normies, the knots, the fucking person that's fucking wants to kill someone and the fucking person preaching in a fucking cave. It's all part of it, man. And I just think for me, I gotta like keep thinking about unity and less separation because like no matter how much there's two, then there'll never be one for me.
Jonathan, you know, I was just thinking about all that, and you know, because in the big book it does say, you know, if this person is acted in this way or that, I have to see them as a sick person. But in the big book it says they are sick too. So it's not saying to me that I'm supposed to put myself above them and be like, oh, I'm so fucking hot shit, and they're just these sick little fucks, you know. It's not that at all. In fact, it binds me to them in compassion by knowing that they're suffering from the same sickness that I suffer. Where Lenny Bruce said it, you know, he's a beautiful phrase. He said, we're all the same asshole. You know, that's fucking Lenny Bruce, man. You know, we're all the same asshole. So, you know, yeah, I could get on my ego high horse and be like, oh, you know, that asshole's sick, you know, as if I'm not. But that's just my sickness manifesting itself, you know, as an ego disease, trying to put me above somebody so that I might feel a little better about myself, which is not going to work, obviously, because that's coming from a place of, you know, self-hate. So, you know, it's when I judge a fellow human as being sick, I have to understand that I suffer from the same sickness. I wouldn't be in recovery if I wasn't suffering from the same sickness as they are. You know, maybe I'm not manifesting it today, you know, as hardcore as they might be, but you know, I mean, that's where my compassion, that's the only place my compassion for a sick brother can come from. It can come from the fact that I know exactly what they're suffering because I suffer the same shit as them. We are all the same. We're the same asshole. You know, maybe today, you know, my asshole's is a little cleaner than theirs, but, you know, at the end of the day, we're the same. And that's where I can have compassion for the sick person. You know, and for me personally, it's the only place where I can manifest compassion is by knowing that there, but for the grace of God in that moment, that could be me in a second. You know, they're howling and screaming and rolling around and, you know, baying at the fucking moon, you know, and I'm keeping it together. That's only by the grace of God. It's not because I'm better than anybody, man. Far from it. You know, I'm the same asshole as they. I don't have the grace of God. I pray for them like I would pray for myself because, you know, I know they're suffering, you know, because I've suffered too. If I hadn't suffered, I wouldn't know they're suffering. I'd just be like, you know, kill them all. But, you know, I can't because, you know, I come from a place of suffering, which gives me the ability to, you know, resonate with that to where I could be like, oh, man, you know, homeboy's hurting, man. So that's it.
Hamish.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sean.
I was thinking again about this thing is that that talks about the whole thing is it's all the thought life and we have to make peace with the outside because as I've moved further, it's DDA's right. I don't trip on anyone outside anymore. It's always me that's coming up with these crazy schemes and even bouncing off that thing. Like this was the scheme I had this weekend. I was like Black Friday and I was like, oh, I'll have Bright Monday and I'll fucking have a sale on all my fucking merchandise on Bright Monday because I'm going to shift the consciousness into the brightness of this thing because it's the scam of the Black Friday bullshit. I'm going to do Bright Monday. But my motive under it all, when I dug into it all, was I was trying to run a scam on the whole thing. And I thought I was justified because I'm going to change the Black Friday into the Bright Monday. But when it got down to it all, I just wanted to sell some more fucking t-shirts because I got a credit card bill due in like 3 weeks for all the t-shirts I bought. And I'm like, I got to hustle this shit up. So I'm not trying to make anything any brighter. I'm actually taking that darkness, running it through my matrix of scamology and pseudo enlightenment and being like, oh, I'm going to project this thing out there that's like, oh, look at me. When really I didn't do it because when I sat with it, I was like, that's me being a fucking fraud again. Because why do I need to put anything on fucking sale? Like God will take care of it. There is no credit card bill. There's no t-shirt. There is just me battling myself, trying to fucking scam everyone so that I don't have to live in fear instead of facing my fear. My fear is that I fucking forgot to pray to God and it's all perfect. You know, like, it's fucking rad, dude.
All right.
Cool. No.
Oh, yeah. That's not.
That's good.
Don't forget there's a cash out.
So
Yeah, I don't know.
speaking
No
of
more hookup.
I can say okay.
Yeah.
selfishness and self-centeredness, if you want to donate any money to this meeting, you can. It's Cash App at learningflues.com or Cash App Learning Flues. And oh, thanks guys. So yeah, I think just to kind of sum up what we're talking about, if I'm having feelings of anger and resentment, then I need to pray for fucking everyone and me. But I love how you put it. DDA kind of like leveled it up a little bit. And it's kind of cool because it's like, yeah, man. I'll be like, oh, you're fucking sick, dude. You know what I mean? It's like, everyone just is.
Yeah.
We just are. You know? We have all these labels for everything, but it can get tricky sometimes. So yeah,
Do you want to take like a question from
coming out.
someone?
Yeah, does anyone have any questions or anything? Yeah, again, I just want to kind of point out that all are welcome here. And I think that ego and selfishness and self-centeredness is like a human condition. Alcoholics and drug addicts just hit their bottoms either quicker or more harshly, but I think that all human beings can benefit from this message, and that's why we're doing this. I want to be real clear because there are a lot of people pushing like different AA and AA shit, which it's not what this meeting is. This is a meeting of we're just trying to find God, and God exists in our connections to others. So we're connecting here with you guys. So thanks for coming out. How do we wrap this up?
We'll usually do the moment of silence.
Yeah.
Okay. Do somebody pray.
So we'll do a moment of silence and pray for all those sick fucks out there that aren't us. And then we'll pray out. Why don't we have Ryan lead us in a prayer of your choice when we're done.
The only one I know is Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name.
Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever. Amen.
Amen. Keep coming back.
Keep coming back. It works if you work it. Somebody hit us with a gathering of more than 10 people.
Oh, thanks, Greg.
They're right.
Yeah, we're religious.
You're allowed to
Yeah.
have a religious service.
And we're outside
protest, and
protesting.
you're allowed to be outside.
Yeah.
Oh, because we're outside.
I saw that fucking idiot.
Well, yeah.
This is a protest against the ego.
There you go.
No, I was all day. I was like, man, I hope fucking Husky pulled this thing off.
Yeah.
It makes me so pissed if you guys didn't.
Yeah, he always.
No, but I was like, you never know nowadays how
Yeah,
people are gonna
yeah.
roll on this one.
Yeah.
I was like, I need it, dude.
Huh?
I was like, I need it, man. I need
I
it.
forgot about you, man.
Oh, no
What
worries.
size of a hoodie do you wear?
Large.
Got you.